Hi guys, Chris here with Chris Sobolev Fine Art. Hey, I wanted to take a minute and just get to know you a little bit and have you get to know me a little bit, introduce myself as the artist. So yeah, I'm sure a lot of you are asking, Chris, what is it that makes somebody, at your age, I will say, pivot in life and suddenly decide to take up painting and become a fine artist? And, because it's obvious I'm not like 16 years old anymore, or even 19, or even 25. We'll just leave it with that. But, going back a little bit, there was a situation that made me make this decision. In a nutshell, my husband and I have a business. It's called Super Savvy Travelers. I'm sure if you are interested in Italy at all, you've seen us on YouTube and other social media. And, basically we have, brought a bunch of people over to southern Italy to help them buy houses. Our little town of Santa Domenica Tilla, we really focused on. We brought a lot of people over. In a town of about 12,000 people, I think we've pretty much facilitated the sale of close to 40, 45 properties up there, abandoned properties or properties that, somebody died, unfortunately, and it just sat there for decades, and people paying taxes on it. So obviously the locals are really, really happy with us. However, whenever money comes into an area, grifters and ticks and things like that come into the area as well. And we had a stalker, and we still do. Actually, we still have a stalker. And it got really bad. Our car was burned in our driveway because, this person wanted to take over our business and we weren't leaving. So, after a false report to the Guardia di Finanza, which is like the IRS, Italian IRS, that found nothing, our car was burned in our driveway. And then when we still didn't leave, we got bullets in the mail, we got death threats, we got extortion letters. It was nasty. And then after that, once that was kind of handled, like I confronted the person and whatnot, the whisper campaigns and the lies and the defamation and the online bullying, and just really, really nasty, really nasty. Now, we have done criminal background checks on a lot of these people, and many of them have very nasty criminal backgrounds. In fact, one of them is a convicted, let's just say he's a person that targets the most vulnerable amongst us. That's as far as I'll go. But I will say, when I read that report, I was sickened. Anyway, that's the situation. So you start with one narcissist that is trying to take over our business and run us out of town and attack us physically and everything else. And then you get the whispering campaign, and that's all taken up by a bunch of criminals, really, basically a bunch of criminals. So, not saying that there's a whole lot of criminals up there, and this wasn't one of the local Italians, and those are not the local Italians. Unfortunately, many of them were people that I invited there. I didn't know they were criminals at the time. So, long story short, after all of that, I fell and broke my ankle, and that was just like, okay, great. That was like sort of the last straw, and I always knew that if I started really excelling at something, like I sort of accidentally did, with this super savvy thing, Pete and I accidentally really excelled at it, and we got a lot of attention. And we got a lot of attacks. And, even now, anybody that gets any sort of attention on social media gets attacked. I've seen it. Some of the best people, and unfortunately I see them go away after a few years because they, nobody wants to be attacked like that. These beautiful dancers that I would see, and then people would just troll them and attack them. It's the nastiest thing I've ever seen. But everybody who gets any kind of attention on social media gets that. It doesn't matter how nice you are. It doesn't matter how much you do for other people. It doesn't matter how much you do for these people, because we did a lot to help those people with, asking, nothing in return for some of the help that we gave them. So in a nutshell, you can be the best person on planet Earth and still be attacked by these people. So unfortunately, that is the situation. However, when I broke my ankle, I went, you know what? I have a lot of downtime. And you know what else? I've always wanted to learn to paint. And I knew somehow that if I just got the right instruction, I could do it. I knew I could do it. I just knew that there were things that I didn't know how to do. Like I could not draw at all. I mean, I couldn't draw my way out of a paper bag. And I go, God, if I could just learn to draw, like I can learn the painting thing. I was on YouTube and, the shading and that and, the values and all of that stuff I was kind of learning as I went. But the drawing aspect was like, I just can't draw. So luckily I found the Milan Art Institute and, signed up right away because I'm like, I need the fundamentals. I need to know, like, here's a pencil, here's paper. That's where I needed to start because there were holes all along the way that I needed to fill in. So I jumped in and I actually signed up immediately. And the first lesson I did was called How to Draw Anything in 3 Easy Steps. And I'm like, anything? Like I can draw an eyeball maybe on a good day, but I can't draw a house. I can't draw this. Well, you know something? I knew there was a tech to it. I knew there was a technology to it all. And once I knew that technology that I could do it. And I did that lesson. It was like an hour and a half master class. I think it's still on YouTube. I think you can go watch it, and I guarantee that you should go watch it because after that I drew a bird, and before, like, my birds would be, its legs were to be sticking out at an odd angle, and you're like, okay, its wing looks weird, its beak is on the wrong side of its head, or whatever. And even though you're looking at the source photo, you're going, it doesn't look like the source photo. Why not? So after this lesson, I drew a bird, and it was a really good bird. I went, the legs are where they should be. The beak is in the front of its face. This is so great. So I went, okay, the drawing part is handled now. I know how to draw. It may take me a while till I get really practiced at it, but now I know how to draw. So then I started painting, and of course you go into the oil painting part. The oil painting part is first, and I was like, I could never oil paint. Well, guess what? I love oil painting. I prefer it to anything. I do it acrylic background, but my figures are always in oil because they're so much easier to paint with. They don't dry out. You can erase and start over. It's just a wonderful, wonderful medium to use when you're creating art. And you can paint oil over all kinds of things. You can paint over collage, you can paint over glitter, you can paint all kinds of things. Put all these things in your background and then paint a beautiful figure over the top. So I've been just having a blast with that. So one of the last things that happened that was really a bitter pill, because talked about the cabal and them going on, and they were trolling me online, writing vicious, nasty, defamatory Facebook posts and putting them in Italian, trying to get me attacked again in the village. And there was one post that was just so vicious and so full of lies. It was just ridiculous. And then somebody else went and did something that was even worse, which I won't go into right now. But I couldn't communicate. I could not communicate like what I was feeling because my beautiful coach, Marla Diane, was saying, no, don't do that, Chris. You got a brand to protect. And I do. A Super Savvy brand is my face. I can't go out there and pound people much as I would love to. So I was like, okay, well, it's almost like having your tongue cut out. You can't say this, you can't do that. You got to protect your brand, blah, 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 blah. And I went, okay. All right, and I had started painting and I had started drawing, and I said, I'm gonna paint what I feel. So I found a canvas and I painted in the background in bright blood red acrylics and some yellow in one corner and a ton of black in it, so it looked like hell, like really angry. And then I found the most vicious snarling tiger I could find. Like, this guy was out for blood, right? And I said, I'm going to paint that tiger. And you know what else? I'm going to sit there in front of my canvas until he's perfect as I can get him with the skill level I had at that time. I'm not going to move until he communicates exactly what I want him to communicate. And I started painting. And I did. I painted for hours and hours. And some days I would paint 12 hours a day because the attacks, every time I had a win for Santa Domenica, every time I did something good for the village, the attacks would come in and the lies would come in, social media would go nuts, and it was just beyond nasty. So I'd sit down and paint, and I'd paint, and I'd paint, and I'd paint until I feel better. So with this tiger, I sat down and I painted. I don't even know how long it took me. I just kept painting. I got up in the morning and I started painting, and I painted until it was late at night. Then I'd get up in the morning and start painting again. And when I was done, I stepped back and I said, oh my God, I'm an artist. Because this tiger communicates exactly what I wanted to say without words, and I put him on social media, And he communicated for me. And then with every painting that I do, you know, after a while I kind of calmed down, you know, and then I painted some doves in the corner to soften it a little. I don't want people to be afraid of me, so I put some doves in the corner, and the sphere of life energy that I like to put in the corner of many of my paintings. And I felt, okay, you know, I'm going to paint all kinds of different emotions. It's not just anger, right? So I painted some calm tigers. I painted some tigers that were very intent, you know. And then I painted some children, which I loved painting, and some beautiful women, beautiful moments captured, you know, that just communicate a feeling. And the more I did it, the better I got, and the happier I got, because every single painting has a specific and a unique message in it. Even if it's just, I want you to see this, I want you to enjoy the color, and I want you to go out and have a beautiful day. And that is kind of pretty much mostly what my message is. That said, take a look at some of my artworks here. You're going to see all kinds of different messages. Some of them I put very overtly, so you know exactly what they are. Others are a little bit hidden, and I would like to know what you think the messages are and what your reactions are to some of these messages and some of these paintings. So anyway, browse, enjoy, and I hope to see you in my gallery very soon. Take care, guys.